Hi, I'm Michael Bossum and I've been doing encaustic art for more than 30 years now. Everything I've done is in the basics book, and what I want to do today is just to introduce you to a few of the things that you can do with molten wax using heated tools. So without further ado, I think we'll just get on with it. It's a very creative activity and we're going to start with a blank piece of card. Now I realise that might be scary for some people, but with encaustic art you're sort of reacting with what happens. So you start off by the iron handle comes on the iron like this. So you take the handle off, you put that hole on the front spigot, press it down at the back here, and then you're ready to go. It's set around low, and the way to test that is just to put a little bit of blue-green colour on, and it should dribble slowly down the iron. And the way to clean the iron is to take a tissue and just wipe it off. So I'm going to start by putting on some colours and making a little, what I call a pattern card. So you can see the wax melts very easily. I'm just going to take the three primary colours, red, yellow, a bit of blue. And then this is a card that's sealed. So when I put the iron down and wipe it along, one iron full of wax covers one card. The card is still clean underneath, whereas on the paper you can see that the wax sinks in. So I can change what I do at any point in time. That's the beauty of it. Now there are four basic effects. There's smoothing, lifting, you can use the edge of the iron and the point of the iron. The wax cools down very, very quickly. You probably can't see, but already I can tap it. It's already cool, and I can pick it up now, and I could even polish it because that's how you'd finish it. So it's a finished piece of artwork, and yet I can put the iron back on it and change anything. So that's the beauty of encaustic art, is that you're not stuck with what you first do. And when you're learning something, that is a great advantage. So I can take this card and make it into something quite nice, quite presentable. Now the wax is a coating on this card, so what I could do is I can use a scribing tool which comes in our starter set, and with that scribing tool I could just work into it. So the wax has cooled down now, and I can just make a row of little circles, for instance. You don't need to be complicated in what you do because the wax gives all of these complex effects for you. I could just make little lines across here, look. So you can work into this, you can take colour off at any point in time. So if I heat up a border, whilst the wax is still warm, I can take my tissue and I can wipe the colour off. Now I've got a second tool that's called a stylus. This is the Stylus Pro. It has an off setting, and then when you switch it on, you've got the neon light to show you, and it has a boost setting for the bigger tips, but we don't need that for this one. There are a whole bunch of tips that go with this. And what you do with this is you just take a colour, let's take a pink actually. I'm using pink because it's the sort of colour of the background there, and then I can just make spots all the way down here. And then I could change to another colour into the slot of the stylus and just make spots. Then I could clean the stylus out just by wiping through a piece of tissue, and I could take red. So just set the tip down into that and then just touch it on here, and I'm going to do a few more of this one, just finish it off. You can also work into your card, of course, so I could put motifs on here, or I could do a line of spots down here. So it's very, very versatile, and you don't need to know what you're doing before you start. You just need to get started, really. And then when you're finished, just take a clean area of your tissue and then lightly polish. And I don't know if you can see the shine on that, but hopefully you can. So that's a basic pattern card. Now you'll notice that the paper underneath has become dirtied, so I'm going to take that away. And I'm going to take another card, and this time I'm going to show you the structure for a landscape. So just cleaning the iron up with the tissue till it's nice and clean. Now for landscape, The easiest way to do it actually is just to take blue on the top half of the iron, and then the dark green, where's the dark green, it's that one there, on the lower half. If you're not sure what colour you've picked up, because some of the darker colours look similar, just scribble a bit onto the paper and you'll see what it is. Now I've got these two colours, I can just wipe them, the same as I did before with the pattern card, along the card, and you'll see that straight away I've got the structure of landscape. Now I could use the rounded edge of the iron to create hills, or I could use the point of the iron to make mountains. Just making a bumpy line or a round curvy one. Come back underneath that with some of the round stuff. And the other thing that happens is when there's enough wax, just got all sorts of colours on here, and you put the iron down and lift, you get that suction effect. So here you can create a nice foreground of mixed colours, and whilst it's still warm, remember I rubbed off the border, if you rub parallel to the card's bottom, it can look like water. Take a little bit of my green again, just do a little bit more on there. And when you make a bit more colour and faster strokes, you get bigger effects. Now you can also, I've got these two little dots there, so I'm going to go through those with my iron to make some grassy effects. And the grasses are just really like ice skating up through the wax. And pretty much everybody can do this. And then the final thing, or final things, using the point of the iron, will be some flowers, and they can just be some dots, sort of fairly random down here. Clean that tip off again. And then I'm going to take a little bit of darker colour and make a V shape in the sky. Just do a couple of them for my birds. I need my tissue again. Take a clean piece of tissue, just fold it, and then polish. But remember, if I wanted to change any of this, I could put a border on here just by going down the side. What I could do, for instance, is to take some dark colour, blue, just go down that edge, and then make a little pretty border. Just placing the iron to finish it off. So, we've seen pattern cards, we've seen landscape, we've seen the stylus at work, the iron at work. I want to show you another tool now. And this tool is a little hot plate. It's the Encaustic Art hot plate, and underneath you can see the iron. It's exactly the same iron with the handle off. It's actually got a different dial on it because it's an old one. But the irons last. Once you've bought an iron, it'll last you for a long, long time. Now the iron sits under there at roughly the same temperature as on here. It heats up the aluminium because it's a very thick piece, and then you can work onto here. So I'm going to show you a quick card. This is an A5 card. I want it to sit on the surface of the hot plate without moving about, and the easiest way to do that is to put some clear wax, just this clear wax block, on top of there, and then put the card down, and now I can start craning directly on, because the heat is coming up from underneath. So I can put all the colours on just by craning. Interesting thing to understand is that when you move a new colour on top of an old colour, it moves the old colour away. So let's just fill this in, keeping it very simple for you. And with this, just using the blocks, you can do all sorts of designs. You can bring the yellow back in. You see how that gets rid of the other colours? So I could just do dots all the way across here. There's no rights and wrongs. It's all a game. You're just playing. You can make quite nice effects from the blocks. And of course there are other tools. So these are rubber brushes. And a rubber brush you just put down onto the heated wax, and you can make different effects with it. Everything can change. And that's the beauty of encaustic art, is that you can change things easily. These are sponges, so I've got a texture sponge. If I just give it a moment to heat up and then start dabbing it, can you see how I can make quite an even texture? Just leave a little bit of that original stuff. And then I've got white sponges, which aren't very white anymore because I've used them a lot. And there are these three shapes. So for instance, if I bang the corner down like this and move along as I do it, I can get quite interesting shapes. I can use the back edge, shuffle it around. There's all sorts of things you can do with it. You can use the long edge. You can use the round donut shape. That creates nice forms. The harder you drag them, the bigger those shapes become. You can always put more colour on, so don't worry about thinking, oh, I've spoilt it. I just say, you haven't spoilt it, you just haven't finished it yet. So we can use this donut middle one. I quite like this one because you get nice round shapes with it. You can do these long shapes as well. You can also use it just to scribble around. This is a roller. It's not something that we sell, but it's something that I use a lot because when you use the roller, you can get a very even background. And these are just, I think they're used for painting radiators and things like that. You get them in any of the DIY shops. And you can use the edge of that roller to create quite nice delineations. And it does smooth everything out. So if I go along here and smooth most of this out, just save a little bit of the original, then I could use a comb. And a comb makes interesting marks like this. So there are many, many things you could do. You could use a rubber stamp and not use it for stamping, but use it for creating interesting shapes. So really it's your own creativity that defines when you stop. And underneath, the card is still staying clean. So at any point in time, I can change this. I can go back in and put fresh colour in, and you can do the same. And remember, where you put a colour, it gets rid of the colour that's already there. So there's no rights and wrongs. It's a great deal of fun. Just one more thing I want to show you quickly, and that's about protection of the artwork. So when you've finished on the hot plate, you simply lift your piece off, and then you put it aside, and it'll cool down in about 10 seconds, and then you can polish it like normal. Just put it there a sec. The thing I want to show you is sealing the wax. Now you don't have to do this, but if you're wanting to give a stronger protective surface onto your wax, just take the sealer, I'll give it a shake first, and this is an acrylic sealer that sticks to polished wax. So make sure you polish your wax first, and then take a piece of cloth, and you need about that much sealer. It's not very much really. Just scrumble it on top of the card, on top of the wax until it's all covered, and then lightly dab backwards and forwards until you've covered the whole thing. And I don't know if you can see that reflecting, but that gives a lovely even coating. So that's a quick guide to the beginnings of encaustic art. There's all sorts more that you can do with it, but I hope that you've enjoyed being with me today and just seeing the beginnings of what this can be. It's highly creative, and I hope that you have a go at it one day.